We have some big news coming in from the Ukrainian capital, where US President Joe Biden has arrived on a surprise visit. The visit comes days before the Ukraine war enters its second year. US President Joe Biden will be visiting Poland tomorrow, that is Tuesday. And according to Ukraine's defense ministry, Russia may attempt to disrupt Biden's visit to Poland. For those of you who are just joining us on this broadcast, US President Joe Biden is currently in the Ukrainian capital Kyiv. He had a scheduled meeting to Poland, but just ahead of his Poland visit, Joe Biden has made a surprise visit to the Ukrainian capital. The visuals on your screens are currently coming in from Kyiv. Just minutes before this, the US President was seen in the capital city of Kyiv. It is being said at the moment that President Volodymyr Zelensky, he'll be meeting the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the day Ukraine commemorates the deaths of about 107 people. There was an anti-government protest 9 years ago, and Kyiv is no stranger to official visits, but this one is definitely hitting different, and this is going to have a ripple effect, as experts are saying, across the globe. We have had past visits by British Prime Minister. We have had past visits by very high officials, even from the United States, but this US President Joe Biden visiting Kyiv is definitely going to have a different impact, a ripple impact even towards Moscow. It is yet to be seen how the Russian President Vladimir Putin is going to see this visit. The visit comes at a very crucial moment, as on 26th of February, Ukraine is going to mark a one-year anniversary of the war. Ukraine has been bracing for new assaults, especially in the city of Bakhmut, which has become the front line of the war, where Russian and Ukrainian forces are fighting as we speak. And at the same time, US President Joe Biden has made a surprise visit to the capital city. Now, it is important to note that there were speculations earlier as well that the US President might be hinting towards a visit to Kyiv. However, no US official confirmed it. There were multiple speculations and questions around it, but now, as you have it, currently the US President is in the Ukrainian capital. Now, the visuals on your screens are from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and US President Joe Biden. They are currently in Kyiv for a high official visit. Now, this was not a scheduled visit at all. Joe Biden had to visit Poland. It was a scheduled visit. He had to visit the US troops, his NATO troops in Poland. However, in a surprise move, US President has landed in the Ukrainian capital. Now, it is important to note that this comes, of course, days before the first anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by our correspondent Anas Malik from Lviv. Anas, big news coming in. Joe Biden is in Kyiv right now. What is the latest you have for us from Ukraine?
Well, President Biden has arrived in Kyiv, and President Zelensky has welcomed him. And in the first remarks that have come through, President Zelensky has said, and I quote, Joseph Biden, welcome. Welcome to Kyiv. Your visit is an extremely important sign of support for all Ukrainians. This is what President Zelensky has said in his initial remarks while welcoming President Biden to Kyiv. The pictures on your screen, you can see that as well. We saw a lot of movement around the US Embassy this morning.
You're right, there were speculations even earlier, and we were getting some reports of that something might happen in the Ukrainian capital, especially from the US Embassy. There were preparations of quote-unquote an important guest that were floating, but at that moment we couldn't confirm because there was no confirmation from the White House or from Kyiv Palace as well. But at the moment we can confirm, for those of you who are just joining in, US President Joe Biden is currently on a surprise visit. Anas, coming back to you.
Go ahead.
All right, coming back to you, you were talking about the significance of this meeting and what exactly is playing out in Kyiv. If you could continue.
Well, yes, this morning we were expecting Dmytro Kuleba, the Ukrainian foreign minister, to go for the meeting in Brussels of the European foreign ministers, but he decided to skip that. And after that, it was being speculated that there is an important guest who's coming in, and we saw that movement around the US Embassy in Kyiv as well. The US aircrafts in the western side where I am, very near to where I am, near the Polish border, taking those reconnaissance flights as well, or preventive flights as it's being said. And then we saw that just a short while back, we see those visuals coming in from Kyiv where President Biden has met President Zelensky in a surprise visit. It was being speculated, but certainly it was not expected, because on the part it would be considered as a major escalation. President Zelensky had invited him in his recent visit to United States that he should be visiting. Publicly it was announced that President Biden is to visit Warsaw, that too tomorrow, in order to express solidarity. But this will come as a major moral booster for both the Ukrainian defense forces and the Ukrainian diplomacy and the Ukrainian people as well, for they believe that this war would not have been fighting this war would not have been possible without US support. And now somebody as crucial and as important as US President Joe Biden coming himself, expressing solidarity to and going all the way to Kyiv, not to Lviv but to Kyiv, in the center of the country, and expressing solidarity, that speaks a lot, and that does speak volume. Ananya?
Absolutely, you're right. And we are being told that an air raid siren blared across the Ukrainian capital as Biden visited. In fact, a couple of minutes back, you were also informing us that in Lviv city especially, there was also a siren blaring. So one cannot negate absolutely how this is going to have a ripple effect. Of course, it's too early to speculate, but can you tell us what can we expect from Moscow?
Well, Moscow will consider this as a major escalation, and with regards to their words, we would be expecting some more formal or informal statements that look, we had said that this is not our war with Ukraine, and rather it's our war with the US, something that Moscow has been propagating, and they would want to use this opportunity or this photo opportunity to pester on their narrative more and more. But it does not really, Ukraine would not really want to see, or Kyiv would not want to give in onto the narrative that Moscow would want to portray. And irrespective of whatever Moscow would say, this visit would be taken as a major step towards solidarity. Somebody as important as the US president coming himself into the country, not just to the country, but into the heart of what we believe is the conflict, from where the attack started from. Let's not forget, when on the 24th, when the Russian invasion of Ukraine began, there were widespread attacks across the city of Kyiv, across the capital of Kyiv, the city of Kyiv, where President Biden is currently. So By and large, this would be seen as a major escalation on the part of Moscow, number one. Number two, as a major sigh of relief on the part of the Ukrainian people, and a major cornerstone or milestone on the part of Ukrainian diplomacy and President Zelensky. Also, a major moral booster for the Ukrainian armed forces that somebody as important as President Biden is here. But having said that, how much tangible would this visit be? Is Ukraine going to get those jets that they have been asking for? Is Ukraine going to get those weaponry that they have been asking for? That's a bigger question, and the answer to that will be known in a while from now, when we see more information trickling in from that visit, that surprise visit of President Biden that is currently taking place in Kyiv. Ananya.
All right, Anas. Also, for more on this, we are being joined by Yehor Brilliant. He's a senior journalist covering international security and defense. He's joining us live from Kyiv. Yehor, if you're with us, this is some big news coming in. The US president himself has landed in Kyiv, and as our correspondent was rightly pointing out, he could have easily gone to Lviv, which is much closer to the Western Front. But no, it was a conscious decision that he made, that he went to the capital city of the capital city of Kyiv. So what are you hearing?
Good afternoon. It's truly a historic visit of President Biden, because actually the last official visit of the US president to Ukraine was back in 2008, when George Walker Bush visited Kyiv and promised President of Ukraine Viktor Yushchenko that Ukraine and Georgia will be granted membership action plan and NATO. But we also remember that Russia pressed France and Germany at the Bucharest summit, and the Ukraine and Georgia didn't get this MAP. And 15 years from that time, it's the first visit. And we have seen visits of Secretary Blinken, Secretary Lloyd Austin, and other senior U.S. officials, but President Biden didn't visit us until now. And what is more important, that we expect some big announcement of new security support and military assistance for Ukraine.
All right, Yehor, I'll just quickly go back to my correspondent who is currently reporting live from Lviv. Anas, we have to bring in the geopolitics here. We spoke about Russia. Of course, there's going to be a fallout of that, and we are yet to see how Vladimir Putin assesses this visit. But we also have to bring in China, because just yesterday, picking on something that even our guest just mentioned, Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, had mentioned that China might be in talks with Russia to supply arms and ammunition, and that's a big deal, because China in itself is already in loggerheads against US and against its allies. So how do you think the geopolitics going forward is going to affect, especially in the light of US President Joe Biden being in Kyiv?
Well, China is an important factor, but before I answer that, we have a statement coming in from President Joe Biden on his surprise visit, and bear me with this, but this is a very long statement, and he says, and I quote, "As the world prepares to mark the one-year anniversary of Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine, I'm in Kyiv to meet President Zelensky and reaffirm our unwavering and unflagging commitment to Ukraine's democracy, sovereignty and territorial integrity. When Putin launched his invasion nearly 1 year ago, he thought Ukraine was weak and the West was divided. He thought he could outlast us, but he was dead wrong. Today in Kyiv, I'm meeting with President Zelensky and his team for an extended discussion on our support for Ukraine. I will announce another delivery of critical equipment, including artillery ammunition, anti-armor aerial bombardments, and I will share that later this week. We will announce additional sanctions against elites and companies that are trying to evade or backfill Russia's war machine. Over the last year, the United States has built a coalition of nations from the Atlantic to the Pacific to help defend Ukraine with unprecedented military, economic and humanitarian support, and that support will endure. I also look forward to traveling to Poland to meet President Duda and the leaders of Eastern flank allies, as well as deliver remarks on on how the United States will continue to rally the world to support the people of Ukraine and the core values of human rights and dignity of in the UN Charter that unites us worldwide. So clearly, President Biden making that a statement that he will be announcing more weapons. What Reuters news agency has reported, citing their sources, is that long-range weapons has the delivery or possible provision of long-range weapons has been discussed or asked by President Zelensky to President Biden, though it is still unclear because they have not been previously provisioned or previously delivered. So it will be very interesting in case if that comes in. But coming to rallying back to your question with regards to how China is an important player, we saw that warning coming in from the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, where he had warned China of providing of possibly providing weapons to Russia as their aggression on Ukraine continues. So amidst that, amidst all of these statements, these intelligence reports, and then these reaffirmations coming in from as high as important as somebody from President Biden himself, the geopolitical impact of all of this will be very, very interesting and very interesting to watch out.
Absolutely, Anas. I want to quickly bring in our guest Yehor. Just a quick reaction to what Joe Biden has just come up. It's a strong worded statement. What are your thoughts on it?
It's very important for Ukraine, for the defense of our country, and I know that the US support will help us to bring our common victory over the Russian occupiers very quickly.
All right, Yehor, Anas, thank you for all those insights from Lviv and from Kyiv, where the actual action is happening. We will be closely tracking all these developments. For now, we are wrapping up this broadcast. Thank you for watching WION World is One.